Hi, everyone. Welcome to Magnificently Made Mondays. Every Monday, we are coming here on Facebook, Instagram, not Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube Live to bring all my fellow wonderful, magnificently made authors, 33 beautiful souls that reached out and gave emptied their hearts into the book. And I'm so excited. It's coming out. I mean, it's getting close. 11/11. It's getting really close. So today we're going to interview Danielle Heuer and hear all about her chapter, Flipping Off Fear and Doubt. And I think flipping off is my kind of talk. Um, so, Danielle, welcome so
Thank
much.
you.
I'm so glad to have you. This is a big thing for all of us. But tell everybody a little bit about you, and if this is your first book, or just come on at me.
Okay, a little bit about me. So this is my very first story in print. So this chapter feels really big because I haven't done anything like this before, but I am also writing my own book, which I did start before the chapter. But then I don't know, COVID happened. I started making bread. Things got really distracted. So I stopped making bread. So now I can finish that book. And that's called Joyride. That'll come out in 2024. And
Amazing.
I'm also writing a book with my 12 girlfriends from high school. So I know I have a couple of things going on at the same time, but that's kind of how I operate. I'm someone that has a couple of things happening at one moment. My brain prefers that. So this is a book with 12 girlfriends all writing about the joy of friendships and lifetime, connections with people. So
Amazing.
a couple different things happening.
Yeah. I understand. I think we have similar personalities. Like you can't just do one thing. It's just we're just not humanly, capable of doing that. So a few of us discussed how we were afraid to go for being, part of the 33. Did you have that little bit of fear of being a first-time author and going for it? How did you come about being part of the book?
So I probably had the opposite reaction because I am completely magnetically drawn to groups of women that I love groups of women getting together. So even when I heard about Jen, before I knew I always wanted to write a book, but when I heard she had groups of women that wrote books, I said, "Ooh, sign me up." And I think I do this a lot. And I'm like, "Ooh, sign me up. That sounds fun." And then I heard 33 women coming together to write a book, and I knew Jen. I knew that Jennifer would have parties and launches and events. And I said, I don't want to miss out on that. So I had no clue what I would write. I had not an idea what I would contribute, but I said, yes, a bunch of women coming together to talk and party and hang out. I'm in.
And that we have done. And yeah, that's so true. I think I stalked them like you. Because I was friends with Maureen Spataro, and then I went to a party at her house, and then, it was like, oh, meet them. And then I was like, then they started telling me about all the amazing things in their SOAR symposiums. And I'm like, oh, okay, I need to get myself involved in here too. So I totally understand that.
I
So
was honored they let me. I felt like I had to apply. It was funny. I said, can I join? Am I allowed in? I was asking for permission to be allowed in the group. And Jen said, yeah, anyone can come in. You don't need to ask. I said, I just want to be a part of it.
I think we all have that, I was totally afraid, totally felt not worthy. I shared, I would think it was like one of the last people to sign up until I didn't even sign up. Mine was just like, I'm going to heart this and see where the world takes this. And then 2 seconds later, Jess is like, hello. Do you want to be a part of this?
That's
So
what a heart means in the group, right? You like it, you heart it, and they pull you in. They said, "Ooh."
yeah, Jess and Jen are pretty good. They know that when we love something, it's like, oh, they want to do it, but they're afraid. They want to say something, but they don't
She
know.
knows you're ripe for the picking. She knows. She says, "Ooh, this is what." But I agree with you that once I said yes, saying yes wasn't the problem. But then when I met the woman and I heard the stories, I did start to get intimidated. I then started to feel like this caliber of women and these stories and the inspiration. I mean, can I deliver on that? And I definitely had those moments. I think I still have them.
Uh, you know, uh, Totally understand. So, tell me a little, let's sneak a little bit about what your chapter is about, flipping off fear and doubt.
So we'll keep it clean. I won't flip anything off tonight in here, but we can imagine the flipping off. This was a story born out of all of my coaching clients. I do corporate coaching. And I was telling Jen the story about, because she was asking me where I get inspired. The title, Magnificently Made. She was coaching me into finding the right story. And she said, where do you get your inspiration? What pumps you up? What gets you really excited? And I don't know if you can hear, I have my assistant is here, my four-legged assistant. I apologize that she might be.
I was wondering, I'm like, is it a hamster?
It's she's my partner, and she wants to know why she can't sit up close up here. So you might see her.
She's allowed.
She's coming closer. So anyway, when she was asking me what my inspiration was, or what pumps me up, or what do I get excited about in my day to day, and I said, well, I work with a lot of clients, corporate clients, who tell me these stories about these self-limiting beliefs and how they really struggle to navigate these stories that they feel like are about them, but they typically have originated from other people's opinions of them. And I get really excited working with people who are struggling with this to help them realize that that's not your story. You get to define your story. And so Jen had asked why I cared so much about that. And I said, well, I had my own personal story, which is what ended up in the chapter, where way back in high school, I had some story about myself and my athletic ability in gym, which is non-existent. And I didn't realize, but I carried this insecurity with me through a lot of my adulthood. And I realized it one day when my children made fun of me while I played basketball with them. And I cried. And they said, Mom, why are you crying? And I didn't really know why I was really crying, and I said, I'm carrying around this story from my high school where I really stunk at gym. So my children laughed, and they said, well, you do kind of stink at it, Mom, but that doesn't matter. We still want you to play with us. And I said, well, gosh darn it, I wish someone would have said that to me in high school. And so my story is just about how I had this feedback in gym class, and I carried it around with me. And then I used this angst about it every time I did anything remotely athletic in my life. I would flip off my gym teacher and say, oh yeah, huh? Didn't think I could do that, did you? And then I would do something else, and I'd say, oh yeah, how about you take that while you're at it? Look at me. I couldn't run the mile, but I just did a triathlon. How do you feel about that? And of course, my gym teacher has no clue I'm doing this. And every time I do it, I'm thinking, what are you doing, girl? I mean, why do you care? I mean, do you think my gym teacher from 1989 is thinking about me? Because I don't really think so.
So a teacher really affected your life by their negative words so much.
Yeah, and I would, to be honest, looking back, I have teenagers of my own now. I don't know if this teacher said so many negative things, but made me feel, and I think it was, looking back, that this teacher was probably trying to pull out some ability that this teacher assumed was in there, but it really wasn't. And I think the teacher, being a teenager, thought I wasn't really trying. I wasn't putting in my all. And I was also trying to hide my inability by claiming I was sick, or it's that time of month, or I had a million excuses, right? And so I definitely was not creating a very good relationship with this person, because I was avoiding anything to do with being in gym. And I was in trouble. I'd have detention. I'd be sent down to the principal's office. And looking back, it was really pathetically my attempt to not reveal insecurities, because I know people like gym class. And to all of you out there who looked forward to that period in high school, God bless you, because I dreaded it. I dreaded it the night before. If there was a kickball game, oh my gosh, I lost so much sleep over this stuff. I know no one can imagine this person's out there, but I know there's other people out there who also hated gym, and I am here for you.
No, listen, do people really like gym?
Oh, I have 3 children that loved it.
Okay. So my gym story is, like, I hated our high school uniform, and thank God I was in school girls, because, I'm always been like bottom heavy. So like they were like shorts that did not stretch, right? There was no jersey fabric. It was like hard cotton, and like they were tight.
You're stuffed in there.
And like, I mean, and by senior year, none of us ever took them home to wash. They stayed in lockers and we shared them all. I mean, I did not enjoy anything about it that maybe I would, but maybe like if we played tennis, I could like sneak a cigarette, like, cause I smoked in high school, cause I thought it was cool.
It
So
was
like,
a good place to have that break.
that was about all. But so tell me, so now you're writing the story and it just comes like, did you start to write and be swayed and stayed with the story? Did you think it was going to go another way?
So, of course, and working with Jen, it went one way, then it went another way, and then it went another way because Jen is so good at getting the story out of you. So I think I started my story and I was mad at my gym teacher when I started my story, right? I was angry that I was carrying around something with me. And my story was a little angry in the beginning. But then as I was writing my story and kind of revisiting some of my 1980s gym class stories, things like my Aquanet, my hair being ruined at first period gym. And then when I was kind of, when you write something, which
You have the high hair.
of course I'm an 80s girl, it defied all gravity. It was, and it smelled beautiful, like that Aussie grape brunch spray. It was just so fabulous. Remember that grape smell? Oh my gosh. So after I got into the story and I started really writing about it, I realized it's more about this idea that all of us have all these opportunities throughout our lifetime in any given day to leave an impression on somebody. And interestingly, the impression that was left on me, I used it to charge myself forward, to propel myself, to challenge myself. And so although when I was sat down with it, I think I had this kind of therapeutic release the first time I wrote it. Probably I was targeting my gym teacher, but it was really for me for carrying it around for so long. And I kind of needed to, I mean, if anybody has anything you're holding on to, write a book, write a chapter, because it is so therapeutic. So I just released and cried it all out. And then I realized, oh, it's really about, making sure that we're aware that we leave these moments with people. And then sometimes we carry them around for a really long time. And that might have been such an insignificant, like maybe even intentionally good message that somebody received the wrong way. And I hear, since I wrote this chapter, so many people have come forward to me with two very interesting themes. One is there are a lot of gym stories out there. I mean, I could write a book about gym stories. There are so many of them out there. We have just touched the iceberg on those. But the other thing that I keep hearing is some people are carrying around the craziest stories that they put in their head and they've used them to define themselves. And they're hysterical. They're maybe not gym, but maybe it's your classmate in the second grade said you had big ears, and now you're in your 50s and you still think you have big ears because somebody that you don't even know their name out of the lineup in your class said you had big ears when you were, I don't know how old you are in second grade, right? 8. And here you are decades later worrying about wearing your hair back because of your ears. How crazy are we? So there's all these things that we carry around with us. And that's what my story actually really became about. Kind of letting those things go and saying, so what? We have a life to live. It should be our story. We can't be carrying around this garbage.
100%. So as a coach, were you happy with yourself or angry with yourself with that revelation?
Well, I think I was very happy at the end, but in the beginning, I kind of thought, oh my goodness, I think I was more surprised that I hadn't worked through it better already, that I guess I was just carrying it. And by the fact that I was flipping it off, that to me seemed like I was working through it, but I really hadn't processed it, that I was carrying it and using it as a little bit of I wouldn't say it's a crutch so much. I think I just used it as like maybe an excuse. And when I finally let it go and said, I don't really need to hold on to that. And I was flipping it off all along the way. I every time I did anything. I mean, my very first part of my story in my book is when I realized that my gym teacher had been traveling for decades with me and I didn't know it, was I came across the New York state line doing a bike ride from Boston to New York. And I wasn't thinking about anybody, nobody, not a gym teacher, not my 80s. I was just thinking of surviving this bicycle ride. I'm in the last 60 miles. I'm coming over the New York state line. Coming from the north, coming from Boston. And I get over, it just was this moment on the street. There were no bikers around me. It was beautiful. We're heading into Midtown. I made it. I did this. I'm not very athletic, so I questioned my abilities the entire time. And all of a sudden, I flipped off my gym teacher and I basically said, "Take that, gym teacher." And I laughed at myself and said, "What are you doing? Why are you flipping off your gym teacher? Because you made it to the New York state line." But it made me laugh. And I thought, oh my gosh, if he only knew that he has motivated me. I did that bike ride twice, mind you,
How
twice.
many miles total?
Almost 300. You bike about 100 miles a day. You sleep in tents at night. Oh, it's hardcore. It was one of the toughest things I've ever done, but most rewarding. And you raise money for a good cause. And again, you're with a tribe full of people, which I told you I already love. So you travel with all these people doing the same thing, cheering each other on. It was amazing. So I do think I'm so glad I flipped it off and didn't say, I can't do that. I'm not really good at that, or I don't have the ability to do things like that. Because I did think that to myself, like, oh, when my friend even invited me, I said, why is she inviting me? I'm the unathletic one. Why didn't she ask some of the athletic people in our group? But I found out later it wasn't about athleticism.
Yeah. Jen is like, how can you say you're not athletic? Yeah, I know. All the
No.
things you mentioned, you are athletic.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that we redefined it. I'm not good at team sports, apparently, but that's okay.
Okay. You don't
I
need
have other talents.
I mean, there's not a lot of opportunities for us to like join, like to be on a softball team, but there's a lot of opportunities for us to do good deeds and causes and ride. That you could take advantage of constantly. How often can you sign up for a team like in your neighborhood as an adult?
Thank you for that perspective. Yes, thank you.
Right? So that's not it's like it's like division. We have a calculator. Like so you don't need to play team sports. It's
I don't need to. I have tried since then because I wanted to double check that I was unathletic. So
okay.
I've joined a couple things just to like see if maybe that was when I was younger. No, but apparently it's my
Okay.
pleasure. It's okay.
It's okay. So you said that, that writing the chapter was healing for you. And I think it would be a good thing, like at the end, if we all know, like how many of us cried while writing our chapter.
I'm guessing, I don't know if Jen knows the number if everyone revealed it to her, but I'm guessing, I mean, I think it's part of the therapeutic process, right?
I always feel if I'm crying, I wrote something well. Like, cause that means like,
You gave it all of yourself.
I emptied my soul. Like, or if I talk about my dad or, like I feel when those tears come, it's like, I got out the words that were in my heart and I was able to express it. Right. So like,
It's
yeah.
like you gave so much of your inner core if you could get to the place where you're crying over. And I cried over it a little bit that I'm in this space with these very talented writers like yourself, writing about these very big moments in their life. And I'm writing about gym class. So there was this moment where I said to Jen, I think it's a very insignificant story in comparison to these other stories. I'm writing about, not being able to play softball. I mean, but it was way bigger than that personally, but that's what it felt like. So I had to kind of dig through it and kind of dig through my emotions for it because I did have these feelings that, maybe I need to write a different story. But then when everybody came to me and was telling me their horrible gym stories, I said, okay, I might have touched a nerve.
No, I think, okay, so mine talks about my son and his heart surgery. Not a lot of people can relate to that, but yes, everybody will have a story about Jim. And then, I'm going back to when I was in grammar school and Mr. Sheen. Oh my God, he was such a jerk. He was brought up on charges years later. He was a jerk.
So you were right with that gut instinct back then. So you knew.
Like I cannot do a push-up or a pull-up for the life of me. I remember just like being tortured. Like you have to do it. Like we had to do whatever 5 or something to like pass, like, be abuse. And then he was one of those people that like, if you forgot your gym clothes, you had to write, I must not forget my gym clothes like 1,000 times.
Simpson, like you had to write it. Oh my gosh.
Like, yeah, I mean, it was just so like, yeah, I can remember, yeah, or we played, come on, dodgeball, like, all the things, like, there's a million horror stories.
Therapy just from dodgeball, that was very traumatic for me. The most remarkable thing, if you think back to gym, my best thing that I could do in gym class, that I was the best at, which just surprises everybody. I can't throw a ball, I can't catch a ball, I can't kick a ball, can't do any of those things. I do try, and my husband will tell you he has witnessed the trying. It's not for lack of trying. It just is not in here. I was not given the gene, but I can climb that rope. When they
Oh,
had, I know the day that everyone else dreads, I was thinking, finally, something I can do. I can climb all the way up that rope. I would get up there and I would hang up there for a little while and look down and say, huh, look at me. Only thing I can do, I'm going to enjoy it.
okay, that's so you're like just super athletic and not realizing it. Because that's like
I can do that, but I can't do anything else.
I would say, like, if there was, like, a burning building and I had to, like, climb up one of those rope ladders that, like, I could not do that either. Like, and that would be a ladder. That's amazing.
I can do that. So I mean, that's my special talent in gym. I can climb the rope. That's it. I
Okay.
got nothing else for you, but I can totally do that. If we just did that 365 days of the year, I'd be like, really, I'd be happy. If we could
And
get
you
rid
would
of all
have
the other
your
things.
your core would be insane. I mean, you'd be I'm sure you're probably
I
do
think
have
I might need a rope. I want to try and see if I can pull it off now. I'm just kidding. I don't think I want to try that.
I always wanted to stay home sick on my gym day in high school. See, yes, Denise. Oh, and my sister, of course, is watching and says, I love dodgeball. Yes, Marion, because that's because you have like a crazy, like, my sister's so competitive. It's like crazy. And she has like a mean backhand, like in a paddleball. And Jen's talent was Scooter Red Rover. What's Scooter Red Rover? I know Red Rover.
Ooh, I did love
Scooter
that.
Red.
The
Is
scooter
that like
was
a Jersey
fun. The
version?
scooter was. That was those little, Jen, is it right? Was it those little red flat square things and you would have to do those kind of relays with them and kind of scurry on the ground? Was that what that was? I think so. Yeah, and little scooters. I don't know if I was good at it, but I thought it was really fun.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
that
right.
I could get into.
So tell me now, so who did you write your chapter for?
I wrote my chapter for my grandfather. So we called him Pop Hop, and I was very close to him growing up. And we always had this kind of banter back and forth that I was going to do these great things. So when I was little, I was going to be the president of the United States. I changed paths, but that was what was on my radar early on. I was going to, and he would cheer me on and say yes, and I'd be the first female president, and this was happening. And then I decided no. Then I was going to be a lawyer, and he cheered me on. I was going to be a lawyer. I was always going to be doing something. I don't know. I said, just wait. You have to wait, Pop. You have to wait. Something great is coming. And then when he passed away, and I had the conversation in my head, and I said, Pop, don't you just keep waiting. The greatness, something's coming. So I did write that in my foreword of my chapter that. For me, this feels pretty momentous. I always wanted to write a book. I'm a total book nerd, and this is my first step. So I dedicated to the patient Pop who's been waiting for something.
Oh, that's absolutely beautiful.
He's watching. He knows it's all coming.
And tell me, so okay, so so if somebody you said you're a coach, right? So you said if you have a problem, that's something that's eating you up, would you recommend writing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's incredibly therapeutic. And I even think sometimes if you're intimidated to write your story, just writing your thoughts can be helpful to get it out. So it's not living up here and clogging up all this really beautiful brain space. So I will even tell people, I don't write lists, write words, write that you're mad, write the same thing 10 times. But I feel like the exercise of writing, and I do like to actually write it. I'm old fashioned. I like a pen and paper, but you can, if you prefer to type it. But the exercise of getting whatever is clogging that ductwork up there out of your head, I think is very therapeutic.
Yeah. There are days like when I'll just like do a grateful journal. Like, I'll just write things that I'm grateful for. But then there's days I just write on the page, dump. Like, and it's just like, just because I can't, like, I have so many things going on. I'm like, okay, let's just download that all onto paper and maybe I can clear my thoughts for a little while and focus on one thing.
And then like kind of dig through all this. And I do it often. If you saw my desk right now, I have a little pile right here. So I have this is a pile of like brilliance right here. So many great things are going on in these piles. There's something on every one of these. They're just all of the things that I think of throughout the day when I'm working or training or facilitating a session, but I have this idea and I got to capture it. And so I write them all over these, and then I go back and I sort through. And there are days where I throw out the whole entire pile. There's nothing good in there. But then there's days where I grab something and go, ooh, that's really good. I'm going to hold on to that. So this way it just doesn't take up space in my brain. A pile of brilliance. Some days it is a pile of brilliance, and other days it's kind of a pile of garbage, but I got it out of my head, Jen, so it feels good.
That is great. So how does somebody like work with you or hire you, or tell us a little bit about that? Let's promote that.
Yeah, okay. So that would be great.
Mhm.
So I'm a leadership and communications coach by day, and I do work with a small consulting firm, and I also do some work on my own as well. I do a lot of corporate training, so companies will reach out to the consulting firm that I work for, and we do everything related to communicating and leading in the workplace. And it truly is the best job in the world. I absolutely love it. It is really amazing work. And then I do a lot of individual coaching on the side, and anything from career coaching. Maybe you're in a place and you want to be someplace different and you're not exactly sure where that place is and you want to kind of talk through it and get ideas. So I do a lot of that type of stuff, which
Okay.
happens at all stages of our career, right? So some people say, what if I'm happy, but I think there's more? Well, if you have an itch and you want to work through the itch and see if there's more, some people feel like you don't have to be laid off or trying to figure out what your next job will be. You could be somewhere where you're good, but you feel like I kind of gave everything to where I'm at, and I just don't know where I can land next. And that's a really fun place to be. So I do some coaching with that too. Or, I do a lot of development coaching. So maybe you're where you are and you love it, but you want to get to the next level in that space. So how do I grow this? How do I really own my career development and my succession planning personally?
So what is a tip for somebody who, okay, let's go this way. What's the number one problem you find people complain about at work? So that
Ooh,
everybody can like try
loaded
a little
question.
nicer. So say it again. What is it?
Loaded question. Okay, the number one, so it's like the number one development problem, as if somebody was coming to me and saying,
Yeah,
I'm
the number one complaint you hear over and over again when you're working with a group of people. So that maybe, when people are working as a team, maybe they can keep that in mind to be a little bit whatever. What is it you think?
so in the field of communications, what I probably hear is the biggest complaint is that uh, if someone's complaining about something they're not satisfied with, it's typically people are not responding to them. So I just had one of these calls today
Okay.
where I'm doing something, I'm asking for something, or I'm writing an email and I'm not getting a response, or I'm doing this presentation and I'm getting crickets, or I have a proposal and I'm not getting a yes or a no. I'm just getting a that's interesting. I'm not getting the buy-in that I want. So we put all this effort into getting a reaction to something that we're doing. And when there's a lack of reaction or response, it is so downright depressing, right? Like you write an email and nobody gets back to you, or you're in a room full of people and you shared something that you sweated and then nobody says a word.
Crickets. Yeah, yeah.
Crickets, right? But I do tell people, and I just told this person I was coaching today who said she wrote this email and didn't get a response, but she wrote the email to someone she doesn't know, kind of cold calling, trying to put herself out there, and the person didn't get back. And I read the email and I thought the email was brilliant. It was really nice. It was sharp. It had a hook. And she said, but I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. And I asked, do you get back to every person that emails you? She admitted no. I mean, I don't. I even have people that I want to get back to that I'm fully interested, that I would be excited to work with. And I run out of time in the day, or I miss that email in my inbox. So I think one thing we have to do is we can't take ownership for all of that. And how many of us have been in meetings, right? We're in meetings with people and we do think it's a great idea and we are excited, but we say nothing.
Do you think that's because you don't want somebody else to look better than you?
I think in today's online environment, it's more that we don't want to take up any more time, so we just don't say anything.
Oh, okay.
Right? We don't want to take up people's time. We don't want to make the meeting longer. We're a little afraid of somebody judging what we say. So we say nothing in the moment and then we wait for someone else to say it. And if no one says it, maybe we follow up afterwards in email, right? That's what happens to people. And then I might, and I all of us are guilty of this. I think we all do this. But the shame of it is, I kind of just like my chapter is we do have to take ownership as communicators. If you're the person that's presenting, don't you want someone to say something? So why don't we say something when we're in the audience? So I made it my mission. I actually started in 2022 because I noticed it happening a lot during COVID, is if I'm in an online meeting, especially, and I don't have anything I particularly want to add, but I want the person to know that I appreciate that there's sound coming out of their mouth, I will say, hey, this was a great topic. Thank you for sharing. Even if I don't really have anything else to add. Or maybe afterwards, I'll email them and say, I want to thank you for taking the time to meet with our group. I found it really beneficial. Because I feel like sometimes it frustrates us, but when we're on the other side, we're not changing our behavior.
So everybody kind of just needs some attention, a little accolades. We'll go a long way.
It's just like, hey, you're talking and I'm listening. I hear you. I mean, it doesn't even need to be anything magnificent.
Yeah.
I'm listening right now. I mean, it's beautiful in this environment when you get all this chat going on that, there's actually people and they're hearing. But, a lot of online meetings, it's quiet.
Yeah. I had 2 interns this summer. Not Jerry, who did, for those who know. I had like 2 younger students, but not that young, that worked with me through the summer youth program, and neither one would ever put their camera on. I have no idea what they look like. I'm like, you could walk next to me in the street. I'm like I found it the hardest thing to do. Like I usually love when being
Right.
next to somebody. Like I can never ever do online again with them.
Do you think that you could identify their voice in a lineup? Like, you must be really good at their voice.
They can put like a gun up to my head. Like I have no idea. Like no idea. And I found it and then I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like I like it was like draining. So I to anybody who has to do that,
It is. Sometimes I train in my environment. I have trained 200 people on a call and no cameras on, no reactions. So you're actually playing the role of the person doing the facilitating and the person reacting to it, because we feed off the energy of an audience. And in an environment like that, where you can't see and there's nobody interacting, it's really hard. It's really, really hard. But I think Jen mentioned this before about even our social media posts. So, and it was a very nice comment. Jen mentioned that sometimes we are touched by a post, but we don't comment, we don't like it, we don't do anything, but it really resonated. Similar idea to the meeting, right? So I have made an effort now to not just have it resonate, that if I see that someone posts something and it does resonate, I want to either like it or love it or say something, because I know that you're probably looking like, hey, did anyone even see this? And I don't know why we don't acknowledge it sometimes. So I have made my own, trying to make my small difference in the world. I am trying to make an effort to let people know that I hear them. Like, hey, I hear you. That was great. Or I appreciate that. Because I think it helps people feel like their messages were heard.
That's beautiful. So we're going to end it on that wise bit of that wise tip from Danielle Heuer. So where can they find you to hire you?
I mean, the easiest right now is LinkedIn. Is you can find me easily, message me right there, and then message me. I'll give you all my personal information, and I'd love to follow up with anybody. That would be really great.
Okay, great. And everybody, Magnificently Made comes out officially 11/11. So we're getting close. Very excited. Next Monday, I believe Denise is on. I don't have the calendar in front of me, but Denise Caesar is on. We've met her a few times. We love her. She's got a great story. I can't wait for you all to learn about her chapter. And you can go to magnificentlymade.net and purchase the book. You'll see all 33 authors if you would like to purchase through them, or just do the bottom link, which goes to all of us. Hey, whatever. So it has been great, Danielle, getting to
Thank
know
you
you
for
a little bit.
having
I love the
me.
beautiful story. I love that your chapter was dedicated to your pops. So have
I
a good night,
appreciate
everybody.
it.
See you next Monday.
Thanks, Chrissy.
All right. I'm just going to hang up here and I'll say good night to you. All right. Bye, everybody.